Hey everyone, this is Sam at IGN. I'm here with Dan Stapleton.
That's me.
We're both big fans of Shadow of Mordor, which we're going to be rewinding in theatrical trailer form right here. It doesn't show any gameplay. You've played this game a little bit, right?
little clip at the end. It's got a little bit of gameplay. Wait for it.
But what it does have is a lot of introduced characters, including Gollum, as you're seeing here, and this ghost who's talking to the main character, Talion. Now, the ghost, we know, is Celebrimbor, and he created the Rings of Power along with Sauron.
Yeah. And they're actually kind of both the main character. You're kind of switching between them as you play. Celebrimbor, am I pronouncing that right? Celebrimbor. I don't have like Sumerian knowledge.
It's no problem, Dan, because that's what I'm here for.
But he kind of inhabits your body or takes you over as you use certain powers.
And he's an elf who lived about 4,000 years before the events of this game, which actually takes place between the events of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, which explains why Gollum is there, right? And he doesn't look too different from his appearance in The Hobbit.
Right.
He's about the same age. But what we found out in an interview with Warner Brothers about this game is that he will be a sort of sidekick, and he can lead you to artifacts and stuff connected to the ghost of Celebrimbor.
Yeah, he's probably not, like, actually, when we played, he certainly wasn't in there fighting alongside you, which would be kind of dumb. I'm glad they're not, I hope they're not going to have him do any actual combat, except maybe to, like, distract people. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
But
and he's in Mordor because he was drawn to Mordor because of his connection to the ring. Sauron at one point gets a hold of Gollum between the events of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and so this is all falling in line with connections to the Silmarillion, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and it's not actually canon,
right?
But it could be. It fits well enough that it could be if it was allowed to be by whoever powers can allow that sort of thing.
Tolkien did not come back from the dead to write this story, is what you're saying.
That's right. So then, from the contemporary times of which we're seeing Talion talking to this ghost, we switch back to the past, and in the distant past, Celebrimbor is the king of a region of the elves in Middle Earth in the Second Age, and this is him with dark hair, without all the cuts on his face and stuff like that,
and slightly more alive.
And he's talking to this nice-looking gentleman, a nice-looking blonde elf whose name in the Silmarillion is Anatar, the Lord of Gifts. This is actually Sauron.
In disguise.
Yeah, he's disguised, and he shows up in Middle Earth in the Second Age to just give the elves all these gifts. He's known as Lord of the Gifts. Look, he's giving him a gift right here.
He cleans up real nice, I gotta say.
He does. And he hasn't revealed himself as Sauron. Even though Sauron's already an evil person, he's just totally disguised. And this is the hammer that's given to Celebrimbor to make the Rings of Power. So they're kind of showing this event, which has never been shown in a movie or anything, and it's just kind of like, in the Silmarillion, it's not really told in a straightforward manner, but here we're seeing it in video game flashback manner. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, and they've done a really good job of kind of capturing the look and feel of the movies. I think that like the visual style they've got is pretty close.
Yeah. Talion's a ranger of Gondor, and he has kind of the same outfitting as maybe Boromir would have. This is interesting. This is Celebrimbor in a very, very short flash being chained up, and look, you can see blood on his face. Sauron eventually overruns Celebrimbor's kingdom, takes him into captivity, tortures him, and asks where the rings are that he made, those great rings that Sauron wants so bad. So that's what's going on there for a little bit of backstory. And this is Celebrimbor's family, who is also murdered by Sauron. There he is, Lord of Darkness, after he reveals himself. Of course, straight out of Peter Jackson.
The movies,
right?
Yeah.
It looks just like the Peter Jackson Sauron, which is really cool character design. And then you can see here, he's actually using that hammer he used to create the rings that he gave to Celebrimbor to apparently murder his family. What a jerk,
Not very nice.
So you can see these two characters, and you're saying you can play as both of them, but they interact also as separate characters.
In cutscenes.
Yeah.
Like as you're playing, like you'll do a jump or you can use a spectral bow,
and that manifests as him.
Right. So you just kind of like poof, you're the ghost now, and poof, you're back to the ranger.
Gotcha.
So it's.
I think we were all wondering who the ghost was until now. So
yeah,
they
hadn't told us who he was.
Here's another flashback of I believe this is Celebrimbor looking at the Rings of Power that he's created, and you can count it's funny here. It looks like there's actually a group of 9, a group of 7, and a group of 3, which we know are given to the men, dwarves, and elves. I think that's kind of funny to see them all there. I never really pictured it that way, but there you go. So here's the bow you were talking about.
Yep. Yeah, it's a really handy weapon in the game actually, because you don't have, it's your only ranged weapon, but you can. There's kind of like a slow down time thing, like there is in pretty much every game now.
Yep.
And when you do that, you go into ghost mode.
Look at that, 2 arrows.
Yeah.
You know who else can do that? Link.
Oh, yeah.
In the latest Zelda trailer from E3 this year, Link had a few arrows in his hand like that. So there's a few more shots of Sauron disguised, which is really cool. They're showing this stuff, and as we get towards the end of this trailer, there, I believe, is a little bit of gameplay.
Well, one of the things they're talking about is how Celebrimbor's, I'm going to say his name wrong every time.
You're nailing it.
His power, enters the mind, which is one of the best powers, and he's doing it right here, actually. One of the best powers in this game is the ability to go up to pretty much any orc and brainwash him and have him fight for you. And like that's actually, like, I'm actually a little worried that's overpowered, because like any orc I saw, like, who was not surrounded by like a group of like 5 orcs who were going to hit me as I try to do this, because it takes a few seconds.
Yeah.
But any orc, you can just go up to him and say, you work for me now. And that's like all kinds of great, like, fun can arise from brainwashing a bunch of orcs and like in the middle of a orc fortress and just having them kind of start fights with other orcs. That's all kinds of fun, like messing with it in a sandbox kind of way.
And if you think about it, this whole power and a lot of the other powers are kind of evil, right?
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like these guys they seem to be seeking revenge, because also Talion's family was murdered by Sauron, and which is not a good thing to seek. And the ring, of course, has corrupting powers and makes men like Boromir, want to kind of gain power and be kind of ruthless and stuff like that. And that's like the motivations that the evil of the ring gives to people. And it seems like these two guys, maybe they're aiming to be good, but I don't know if the results of the game in the end is going to be that they caused much good.
Right. Well, I mean, they don't have a ring.
Well, we don't know that. Right, because the rings are accounted for in some respects by Lord of the Rings, and they could be breaking a little bit with canon or something, but there's 7 dwarven rings,
right,
and there's 9 ring wraiths eventually. So, but we don't know what happened to the dwarven rings, and then the 3 elven rings are accounted for, and of course the 1 ring at this point is lost. Well, actually, Bilbo has it. And I thought this was cool. In this final little scene, they show a very, Lord of the Rings moment. This seems to be, back in the day, Celebrimbor defending Eregion, but it just looks like, what would a Lord of the Rings anything be without one of these epic battles? And they really get the feel of the movies in here, right?
Yeah, they do a really good job. The cinematics are pretty over the top, awesome.
So that's it. That's all we can get out of this one. But for much more on this, there's a great interview with the guys that made this game at Warner Brothers, and that's going up about the same time as this on IGN. And, of course, you can watch this trailer in its full form on IGN as well. And for much more on Shadow of Mordor, please keep it locked to IGN.com. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Sam.